Hip-shoulder separation is absolutely crucial for any cricketer, whether you're a batter looking to clear the ropes consistently or a bowler trying to bowl rockets. And there's one key element of hip-shoulder separation which the majority of cricketers miss. And today in this video, we're going to cover that in detail. We're going to understand what the thoracic spine is, how it impacts your game, and what exercises you can do to unlock it and give you a more powerful hip-shoulder separation. So first of all, let's understand what the thoracic spine is. So I want you to imagine this barbell is your spine and your head will be on here. It's quite a long spine. It's a lot longer than my spine, but we'll just use it as a visual representation. I'll also drop in a visual of what the actual thoracic spine looks like, but essentially the spine is split into three parts. The bottom portion is known as your lumbar spine. The top portion, which is your neck, is known as your cervical spine. And in this mid to upper portion, it's your thoracic spine. So your thoracic spine is essentially your mid to upper back. And we want our thoracic spine to be able to do three things. We want it to be able to flex, extend, and rotate. And we also want it to be able to do those three things independently of our lumbar spine and cervical spine to a degree. But often what you'll find in a lot of cricketers is they have a lot of tight backs and they get a lot of back pain. And if you imagine all of these muscles around the thoracic spine, if they're all really tight and pulling on it, then it's going to be really stiff and hard to access flexion, extension, and rotation. So if we look at what issues that causes in our game, if we look at bowlers to start with. So a bowler needs to be able to get their arm overhead and then deliver it powerfully through. And it's also got a rotational element to it. If this spine isn't able to extend through the thoracic, then what's going to happen is the lumbar spine is going to extend a lot. And then that's how we get a lot of lower back injuries because it's having to do too much. This thoracic spine hasn't got the movement we want it to have. And also if it's unable to rotate through over our lumbar spine, then we're going to get into a lot of lateral flexion and increase the risk of side strains. And then if we think about batters, what we want batters to be able to do is we want to be able to separate our hips and our shoulders. So we want to, as the bowler's running in, or as the ball's released, we want our shoulders to turn and our hips to clear. And then as the bat is coming down from the top of the swing, we want our hips to rotate first, and then we want to be able to follow through with our shoulders. But if our thoracic spine lacks mobility, then essentially our whole upper body is going to be one, and we're going to be very stiff, and we're going to struggle to rotate nice and smoothly, and it's more going to be like a big hoik into cow corner. If you watched our hip mobility video, then this will sound very similar to that, because the hip mobility and thoracic mobility are kind of intrinsically linked together. So we understand what the thoracic spine is, we understand what issues it's causing in our game. Let's now look at how we can solve them. Exercise number one that we're going to do is something called a half eagle. For this, you're not going to need a med ball, you just need something that is roughly that high off the floor. Now for this exercise, we're going to get onto our side. So we're just going to lie down here. I'm just going to move the mic so that you don't lose any audio as I do this. And then for this exercise, we're going to bring whatever you've got. So a foam roller is actually perfect for this, but I haven't got one in the gym. Get whatever you've got here and bring your knee up level with your hip. You're then going to push your knee down into whatever object you've got here, and that's going to lock down our lumbar spine. In this position, what often happens is people just want to take the shoulder to the floor straight away. So it's really important you pop your hand on the back of your head and you get that elbow point in the sky, and that chest facing directly forward. Then in this position with one arm out resting, what you're going to try and do, push down through that ball, big squeeze through your core, and you're going to to the floor. Now, if you do true thoracic spine rotation, that is probably all you're gonna get, range of motion, 20, 30 degrees. If you're going and getting down to the floor, what you'll notice is my knee has now come up. So the lumbar spine is now involved. So it's really important we have this here to keep that lumbar spine locked down. so we don't over-rotate. Less range of motion, but better quality is always going to be better for that exercise. The other way we can do an exercise like that is in a kneeling position. So what you're going to need is you're going to need something to push into here, and ideally you'd have something to also push your knee into. And then for this exercise, what you're going to do is you're going to keep this front knee still, you're going to keep this hand pushed into something solid, and you're going to try and rotate round the back in there. And it's a really nice exercise to open up the upper back. What we aren't doing is we're not moving that knee and getting fake thoracic rotation. We're keeping that knee still. You'll really feel it in your core. Now, a top tip for this exercise to get even more range of motion is to really use your breathing. So your diaphragm, which helps us to breathe, is attached onto loads of muscles around our rib cage. So if we can breathe deeply, it's going to relax all of those muscles and unlock range of motion. So in the end or start position, big breath in, rotate, big breath out, and then you'll be able to get an extra inch or two of range of motion. So with those 2 thoracic mobility exercises, add them into your routine, make sure you do them really well, and it's gonna unlock extra range of motion through your thoracic spine, which is gonna help to improve your bowling action and your hip shoulder separation when you're batting. If you didn't catch part 1 of this mobility series, then click here and watch the hip mobility video. And then please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next week for the 3rd part in this series where we're gonna talk about all things shoulder mobility.